This video will show you how to replace your rear brakes, drums, and shoes on this Toyota Corolla. This will be located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, you're going to remove all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now the next thing we're going to do is remove our rear brake drum from this area. To do that, if it doesn't just slide out of position, you can have a peek at these 2 ports. They're threaded. Find the bolt that fits into it, start it in, and then you just want to continue on by tightening this up. As you drive this in, it's going to start pulling the drum out and away. Just get that started into position. There we go. With the brake drum out of the way, we have a clear view of our rear brake shoes. We want to make sure we don't see any fluid coming out of the wheel cylinder, otherwise that would need to be replaced. Let's start removing some hardware from this area. I'm going to be using some pliers. We want to try to remove the upper spring here first. We're just going to dislodge it from the rearward shoe. For this, I'm squeezing on the spring tab. I'm going to start pushing the spring out and pull it away from the shoe. You can pry up against that wheel bearing hub surface if necessary. A quick note about pulling on this is you want to confirm that you don't pull the shoes too far in one direction or the other, which can cause an issue with your wheel cylinder. Now that we have that separated, let's continue on down towards our anchor pin area here. Now this is where we can see our anchor pin spring and our clips. The pin itself actually makes its way from the back side of the backing plate, straight through the backing plate, through the shoe, and out into this area. So what we're going to need to have, you can use some pliers or a specialty tool. We want to press in on that circular disc. We're going to spin it so it aligns with the pin, and then we should be able to pull all this apart. Obviously the spring will be under spring pressure. Be extremely careful. Okay. There's our spring. There's our locking clip. You can see the slot in it. We've got another one here. Should be able to pull that off as well. Now we can remove the pin. For this, I'm just going to start pushing it through towards the rear. We can reach along the back side and remove that pin. I'm going to be replacing my hardware. If you don't intend to, you need to at least give it a close inspection, make sure nothing's rotted or weak. Now that we have some movement from that shoe, the next thing I always like to do on my rearward shoe is pay attention to where my e-brake mechanism is going to be located. This is going to be a pivot point for that. We need to separate this. It has a small metal clip along the backside. You just want to get in between the 2 ears, just start separating them so we can slide this out of place. For this, you can use a flat blade screwdriver, whatever you might happen to have. We just need to get some space in here so we can get it off. Now we should be able to slide that out and away from our shoe. We'll just give that a quick inspection. You will be reusing this. You can hang it aside. Let's continue removing the shoe. We have a lower spring next. Slide it right off of there. Fully remove that spring. Back up along the top, we have our adjuster and our adjuster spring. That's going to slide out of the groove up in the top corner. Now that we got that out of there, the next thing we're going to do is start disassembling our adjuster so we can clean it and remove our spring. Just remove that outer adapter. Now this portion is going to unscrew. Should be able to slide that right out of there. Now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and clean this up and give it a thorough inspection. If anything looks like it's rotted or going to cause an issue with the adjustment of the rear brakes, you want to go ahead and clean this up or replace it if necessary. Now once you do have that adjuster cleaned, I like to try to put everything back together. I've got the same spring that I had removed from the adjuster. I'm just going to slide it back into the same orientation. I've cleaned the threads and applied some anti-seize. We want to make sure that this is nice and free, so when we're making our adjustments, we don't have to worry about anything getting seized up on us. We'll go ahead and bring this all the way till it's bottomed out, and we'll continue on with the outer cap. As for the outer cap, I've got some lubricant in there. That's going to help prevent moisture from making its way in. I'm just going to work that around now. This is all set. Let's continue on with the removal process. Now we're moving along to the forward shoe. Before we start removing the anchor pin, have a look in here. You can see that we have another spring. This spring leads from the shoe all the way up to the adjuster rod along the backside here. This is what hits up against your adjuster cog that we just finished cleaning. We can remove that once we have the shoe out of place. We're using the same tool for our cap. Push it in, give it a twist. Starts to release. Let's get it out of there. Okay, let's get that pin out of there. Now we can start removing that shoe. Now that we have the forward shoe out of place, let's have a look along the backside. We can see the spring that we could see, but now we can also see where our adjuster lever is. We're going to dislodge this from its mounting point and transfer it over to the brand new forward shoe. For this, we can go ahead and dislodge the spring from the shoe. I'm going to lay it down. We'll use our pliers, grab it, pull it out of place. Take hold of this, we'll lift it up and away. A thorough inspection of that, you will be reusing this. We can set that aside. In your kit, you want to find the shoe that matches the original shoe that you had just removed. Prior to installing our lever onto this area, I like to apply some lubricant. Just a tiny bit will do, anything to help prevent rust from this area. Now it's time for our adjuster lever. Line that up, press it on there. And onto the spring. Let's get our spring in place. That just fits right around this area. We'll stretch it down onto the shoe. Press that on. Perfect. Now, prior to installing any of our brand new parts, we need to make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. Looking along the backing plate, you're going to find that there are several raised areas that need to be cleaned. For this, I'm just using some parts cleaner and a wire brush. Pay attention along the bottom area. This area will collect rust and can potentially cause noise. We have high temperature lubricant. We're going to lubricate inside of the boot of the wheel cylinder. We'll continue making our way along to each one of the raised areas on that backing plate. We'll stop in the bottom middle there, where the shoe touches up against. And of course, repeat the process on the other side there. After lubricating each one of those areas, we're also going to lubricate this. We want to especially pay attention along this tab. That's going to press through our rear brake shoe there. Let's start getting our front brake shoe back in place. We already have our spring and hardware attached on there. I'm just going to slide this right into position. Obviously, we don't want to press too hard. We don't want to force that wheel cylinder apart. Once you do have it in place, align the mounting point and continue on with your anchor pin. That's going to come through the back of the backing plate and straight through your rear brake shoe. Once you can see the pin protruding through, continue on with one of your metal clips. Slide that right on there as far as possible. Now after that, it's going to be time for your spring and your next metal clip. So essentially, each one of the pins has a metal clip. Now on your circular locking clip, it does have a slot. We want to make sure that's matched up with the angle of the pin. After that, we're going to press in so the pin makes its way through the clip, and then we can twist it a quarter turn. We'll confirm that it's properly seated. Line it up. Now that I have that in place, we're paying very close attention directly in the center here. We can see the end of our pin. It's perpendicular to the slot on that locking clip, essentially forming a cross. Now let's get our rear shoe in place. We have the tab on this area here. That's going to slide through the upper port on our rearward shoe. Let's go ahead and slide it right in there. Now, while holding it in position, we have our brand new locking clip. We're going to squeeze the two ears together, locking it in position. We'll just pivot that as necessary. Let's attempt to remove those two from each other. They should not separate. Now let's continue on with our adjuster and our adjuster spring. We're going to take that adjuster spring and slide it straight on through the port. Now we're going to have to try to bend and flex this and bring the adjuster over the rear shoe with the parking brake actuator. This can be difficult. Just be careful for any pinch points. There we are. Easy peasy. Now that we have that on, let's focus on our lower spring. That goes into the two ears down along the bottom of each one of your shoes. We'll start bringing this over next. Now it's time for our anchor pin. That's going to come through the back side of the backing plate, straight on through our shoe. We'll install one of our circular clips, our spring, and then the outer clip as well. All right, I've got my clip in my tool. Hold that pin, line it up, give it a twist, quarter turn. Now we're looking directly in the center area here. Just as before, we have the slot in our locking clip in comparison to our pin. We want to make sure they're forming an X or a cross. Whatever they are, they just need to be perpendicular from each other. Now we'll make sure our adjuster is sitting in the slots along each one of the shoes. After you're sure of that, continue on with your spring. It's going to go into the circular port up in the corner here. As you start pulling the spring over, you want to ensure that you do not shift the shoes too much and cause damage. We're applying rearward pressure on the shoe while we continue pulling the spring forward. Let's get that spring onto the next shoe. For this, I'm just going to use some cutters. I'm not trying to cut my spring in any way, but this is a good way to grip onto the spring without actually damaging anything as long as you're careful. We'll gently pry, press it on there. Just double check to make sure it's properly seated. One last quick inspection in this area, and we'll clean our wheel bearing hub. You can use a wire brush or even a cloth sanding cookie if you have one of those. Now that I got this sanded down, let's just give that a quick wipe. Nice and clean. Let's apply some copper anti-seize to our wheel bearing hub. Just spread that around. Now the next thing you want to do is clean the mating surface on the back side or the inboard side of your brake drum. You can use a wire brush or some sandpaper. I'm replacing my brake drum. Along the back side of the backing plate here, we're going to remove this rubber plug. This is where we're going to gain access to our adjustment point. Quick inspection of that, we'll set it aside. Now, prior to installing our brake drum, we're going to pay attention to the adjuster. I want to show you what's about to happen here. I'm going to be using an angled pry bar in and through the back of the backing plate. You can see me protruding through. We want to try to grab on to this cog, and you can make your adjustments for the brake shoes. You can either adjust them out or turn it the opposite way to adjust them in. Now that I've shown you what's about to happen, since this is going to be behind the brake drum, you really can't see very much. But essentially, when the drum is on, we want to continue tightening this until you have very little brake drag, or the brake shoes are just barely touching up against the brake drum. You don't want to have something to the point that you can't turn the drum, because friction creates heat, that'll cause things to expand, and your brakes might lock up on you. But if they're too loose, you step on the brake pedal's going to feel squishy, and you're not going to have very much braking from this wheel. Let's just go ahead and clean up that brake drum. I'm using some parts cleaner. Clean rag. We'll clean the entire braking surface all the way around. Let's clean that mating surface. And now we can get this in place. Now, as you can tell here, this needs to be adjusted a little bit tighter so we're pushing the shoes outward towards the drum, and when we spin this, we should hear a slight scraping noise. There we are, getting close now. There we are. Now, after you've made your adjustment, you want to make sure you protect the port. We'll just use our rubber plug, slide it right into position. Let's get our wheel on here. We'll get that in place. Start on all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts. We'll bottom them out. Get the wheel safely back down on the ground and torque each of these lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Now that we've got the wheel back on the ground, let's torque each one of our 21mm lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our rear wheel bearing. The next thing you want to do is take your vehicle for a road test and make sure there's no ABS light. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.